Welcome back to the GBC Podcast. Glad you have joined us today for something a little bit different. We're not going to look into the book of Hebrews like we do most of the time, or into sermon prep type information, that kind of thing. But we're looking into something a little bit different. I just was able to attend the Tennessee Baptist Convention meeting.
And that was your first Tennessee convention.
That's right. I say the first. I was there 15 years ago or more for a little bit of time in pastoring in Tennessee, but really my first time to actually ever go and really be interested in it. A long time ago, it didn't really matter to me much, but so it's called in Tennessee, though I learned it's called the Summit. They call that's the name of the meeting. And we also call it the Tennessee Baptist Mission Board instead of the Tennessee Baptist Convention. But when we meet together, it is the convention. So I'm still a little confused. I'm still learning my way through how we do that in Tennessee. And but anyway, it was a great meeting. I got a chance to go to Brentwood Baptist Church near Nashville. And so it was a good time to be able to do that. I went with Pastor Ben, and we spent some time over 3 days, really, the pastor's conference, and then the meeting of churches, the messengers from the churches on Tuesday, and then part of the day on Wednesday. So it was a great meeting. I enjoyed being able to meet a lot of new people, and for me, I'm meeting most everybody's new. And but I did get a chance. I will say this before we get into the stuff. I did get a chance to run into several guys I went to seminary with, which has been a lot of fun. Several of them are in positions of responsibility within the convention, and so I was able to sort of see who they were, grab them. I recognized them. We were able to talk. It's been a long time since I've seen most of them, and so that was a neat opportunity to be able to catch back up with some guys that I knew a long time ago in Tennessee, and I'm able to reconnect with. And I found out even one of them is a pastor here locally at Ellendale Baptist Church in Bartlett.
That's not far.
It's not far at all, and so I did not know he was there, and we were in seminary it's a long time ago, 15 years ago, 16, 17 years ago, and found out that he was really close, so we'll get a chance to be able to catch back up. So anyway.
And there were some other GBC faces there, too.
There were GBC faces there. So Dawson was there as part of the men's chorale, the Tennessee men's chorale, and he played the piano while they sang. And it was awesome. Loved it. Great.
All the other churches realize what we have, and they're envious.
I know, that's exactly right. And so got a chance to see him, and also got a chance to see our former pastor, Charles Fowler, and then got a chance to also see Ken Story. And so it was fun because when we walked in, I know we all sort of converged right at the very front where the podium is. It was Dr. Story and Dr. Fowler and myself. All standing there together, and we realized, hey, so that was pretty fun, and we got a chance to talk to each other for a few minutes. Our interim pastor, Brother Tommy Vinson, and got a chance to see him, talk to him for a little while, and so anyway, it was neat to be able to see some other faces there, people that I already knew, and so it was a lot of fun. But made us think a little bit about talking, maybe give us an opportunity on the podcast to think through and talk through sort of how this whole thing works as a convention of churches. I've been a Southern Baptist pastor long enough to know that many people in the pews every Sunday that are Southern Baptists, been Southern Baptists all their life, don't know anything about Southern Baptist life.
They focus enough on the local congregation's autonomy that they forget that, yes, we're autonomous, and at the same time, we cooperate.
That's exactly right. So some people just have and some, to be fair, some have no interest in knowing all of that. And it's okay. You don't have to know all of that to be a Southern Baptist, but there are some that have just been Southern Baptists all their life that really have never even cared about it, or maybe you've never heard about it, or never, it's never been an interest of theirs as much. And so they hear things and they don't worry about it. But they thought it'd be a good opportunity just to sort of think through and talk through in a brief setting like this exactly what we are as Southern Baptists. I've been a Southern Baptist all my life.
Likewise.
Just since I was born, right? I've been going to Southern Baptist churches. And I didn't know exactly what all that meant until later in my life, growing up, an older teenager, a young adult, and some of it started making sense to me that we're of a particular tribe, we're of a particular brand, we're different than some other Baptist brand. And so I started trying to figure out what some of that was, but until I got to Bible college and seminary, it really didn't all make sense to me until then. So again, that the fact that a lot of people don't know, even people that sit in the pews don't know what Southern Baptists are, that's nothing on them, because I didn't know either until I got to seminary where they actually taught me some of this stuff. So I wanted to talk through it just a little bit so everybody would know, at least those who listen to the podcast, be able to know who we are, why we identify as a Southern Baptist, but where we come from and how all that works together. There are other Southern Baptist churches right around us. And so what does that mean for us that they're Southern Baptists, we're Southern Baptists? So some people just don't know how that works. So let's talk about it. All right, let's get into a little bit of the history and where we came from. Run through just a couple of things real quick of sort of how Southern Baptists got started, where, like how it all happened.
Well, Baptists were part of the framework of our country early on. I mean, the 1600s, we have churches, I think in Charleston, South Carolina, 1620-something is when the oldest Baptist church, just Baptist in general. Right. But then as history progressed, there became a point in the 1800s where there was a lot of division in our country at large. And one of the things that began to be a problem was for the Baptist churches in the South, they were feeling like there was a lack of missions focus in them, and part of that was because some of the leadership of the Baptist churches were not ordaining or setting apart missionaries from some of those churches in the South because they were slaveholders. And then becoming over that issue is when eventually the Southern Baptists broke off from the others, and that's kind of when the ball got rolling, 1845, and there was that dividing line, and that's a piece of our history from where we came from.
Yeah, it started in 1845 in Augusta, Georgia. That was the first meeting of finally a convened convention of churches in the South. And again, like you said, one of the biggest parts of all this was revolving around slavery. And we've had to, as Southern Baptists, we've done this intentionally over the years. We've had to go back and look at our involvement as Southern Baptists in slavery in America, and it's not pretty. It really does not paint a pretty picture of Southern Baptists. Way back then, a lot of our churches, a lot of our pastors, a lot of our professors, theologians were excusing slavery based on biblical mandates. They believed that it was biblical, that it was okay to hold other people in slavery and all that. And so since then, we've come to understand, and many people did then, which is why they didn't want to be Southern Baptists. But even Southern Baptists have since then said that what we were involved in, we were wrong there. We had a wrong view of the Bible. We taught the wrong things, and we've repented of that publicly, and even made statements of that publicly, such as in 1995, Southern Baptist Convention made a resolution, a very lengthy resolution, just acknowledging our involvement in slavery then and the effects of that, the consequences of that for years to come, and publicly repented of that even then, and even since then have made other statements about that. But it's just a part of our history that is not pretty, but it is part of where we came from. And so if we're going to talk about SBC, or we're going to talk about where the Southern Baptist Convention got started, you got to talk about that.
Can't avoid it.
That's just part of our history. But we started that long ago in 1845 as a group of churches that were revolved around a need for doing mission work. What we thought back then was a mission work beyond just the southern states, beyond that even into other parts of the world. Mission work was already being done all over the world by then. Southern Baptists were not the first Baptists, like you talked about. We came along much later than Baptists in general. So mission work was being done all over the world already, but people, Southern Baptists in particular, when they got started, said there needs to be a better engine to be able to do this, to be able to make this happen, and be able to send people to different parts of the world to share the gospel with people.
And this is all coinciding with as communication became easier, it was growing in ease, and travel was growing in ease, and you could. All these things began opening doorways to be able to go outside of just your community and have a more global impact.
That's right. So within the southern states, you had participation in missions. You had participation in fellowship. They were fellowshipping together, associating together, learning how to, as many different churches, learning how to cooperate together to do this mission work as a whole.
While still being autonomous and unique in their own separate church.
That's exactly right. Which is one of our Southern Baptist, if you're going to identify Southern Baptist, sort of who we are and what sets us apart from other groups of Baptists, that's one of those identifying characteristics is that we are autonomous. Meaning that every single Southern Baptist church is independent of every other Southern Baptist church. We cooperate willingly, not coercively. No body, no document, nothing is binding us together with other churches. We've willingly said we will stand side by side with other churches of like faith and order and cooperate together as it deals with mission work and all of that. And so we'll talk about that in a minute as it involves the sort of the cooperative program and that kind of thing. So if you fast forward from 1845, about 80 years to 1925, there was a need along that span of time to develop a body of doctrine, a document of some sort that would help us to identify who we were and what we believed. Again, what set us apart from other groups of Baptists, what helped to identify us. And so in 1925, a document was written called the Baptist Faith and Message. And that document, the Baptist Faith and Message, in 1925, sort of said, okay, here are the things that we believe. Not what you have to believe in order to be a Southern Baptist church, but here's what, when we gather together, here are the things that we have in common. Mm-hmm. We believe that Jesus is God. We believe that He died on the cross. He was raised from the dead. We believe He's coming back. We believe in the ministry of the Holy Spirit. We believe in, and so a number of different things. Well, in 1963, that was upgraded, if we want to say it that way. We added more things in 1963 that really weren't maybe needed in 1925 because the times
weren't questions.
That's right. And then again in the year 2000, we updated or upgraded it again to say some other things that weren't really issues or problems way back in 1963 or in 1925. And so we have now, as Southern Baptists, we operate under what we call the Baptist Faith and Message 2000, and that's because it was adopted or upgraded in the year 2000. So,
and that, you lay that side by side with our church documents, so that our articles of faith are the exact same. There are a couple of things where we've, again, updated language for concerns that we have today that we didn't have in 2000, but again, that's us as a church family saying we're on the same page.
That's right. So if anybody were to ask, any of our own church members at Germantown would say, okay, what do we believe? Do we have a document like that? And we do. Mm-hmm. Within our Constitution and bylaws, we have a document that gives our statement of beliefs. And like you said, if you lay them side by side next to the Baptist Faith and Message, it's basically the same thing. Mm-hmm. That is, we're saying as a church, we agree together with other Southern Baptists that those are the things that we believe. Mm. Now, there's a lot of things it doesn't say in the Baptist Faith and Message. And let me just give an example, all right? So when some people read the Baptist Faith and Message, they might get confused about what things are in there, what things are not in there. One of the things that we don't say as Southern Baptists that we all agree on is, say, the timing of the Lord's coming, right? The issues of rapture and all that kind of stuff, the timing of all that. Well, we don't say in the Baptist Faith and Message what way we believe because we realize as Southern Baptists, there's a lot of disagreement on that. When the rapture will it be before Jesus, comes back? Will it be after He comes back? Will it be whatever? And so there's a lot of disagreement around all that, but we don't say anything in our belief statements about that because there's room for disagreement.
Right. It's not a dividing line between a denominational standpoint or a dividing line between believer and not believer. It's a dividing line that you can have two brothers in the same church who have a different view on that specific topic.
And should be okay with that. Should be able to disagree with each other agreeably and move on. But what we can't disagree on is whether or not Jesus was God. Is he divine? Is he the Son of God? Well, that is in the Baptist faith and message because we believe that is a dividing line between believer and non-believer or different fellowships or different denominations. So there are things that are in there, but there are a lot of things that aren't
Baptist
in there.
distinctives.
That's right.
It's not a comprehensive theology text.
That's right.
Nor is it the Bible. It is not
Exactly.
inerrant, but it does, every one of those references has dozens of references of Scripture that support what that statement says.
That's right. So and that's a good way to put it. The Bible is inerrant. Our belief statements are not inerrant.
Because clearly, like in early Southern Baptist history, we had some errors.
That's right. That's exactly right. So these documents like this are necessary for us to be able to just to identify who we are, right? This is who we are. This is what we believe. This is what makes us, quote, a Southern Baptist, right? We believe these things and we operate these ways. So that sort of sets for us what we believe. Now, there's a lot of misunderstanding about how then we as a Southern Baptist church operate with other Southern Baptist churches. And so this is the way that we like to explain it as Southern Baptist. Southern Baptist Convention of Churches is just that. It is a convention of churches that are agreeing to work together. It does not mean that they all operate the same. It does not mean that they necessarily all believe the exact same things about everything, but they're all going to hold in common the Baptist faith and message, supposedly. But they're a convention of churches saying we want to work together to go reach the world for Jesus.
Because we know we can do more together than we can independently.
Exactly. So we're gonna work together. We're gonna sort of pool our resources, pool our money, and pool our people together, and we can accomplish a lot more doing that.
I mean, we even see that in Scripture with Paul going and doing the collection and going back to Jerusalem. There's a picture there of the early churches working together to do more. They were all independent, but they wanted to do more together.
That's right. So as a convention of churches then, the way we like to explain it is we are not a sort of a top-down organization or denomination like some other denominations are. Some other denominations, most other denominations, work in a way that is top-down. In other words, there's somebody or a group of people at the top that make decisions for the whole, and those decisions get disseminated down through all of these churches. They operate the way they've been told to operate. So that's sort of top-down kind of operation. The Southern Baptist Convention operates differently. We flip that upside down, and so it's sort of bottom-down kind of thing, bottom-up kind of thing. So the way that we operate is that we say the churches are the ones in charge, right? Every autonomous church that works together willingly, they make the decisions and tell the convention entities what to do. Nobody tells us what to do. We in turn tell the convention what to do, or the convention entities what to do. So there is nobody over us. We are our own church. Now we understand that we belong to Jesus. He is the head. But we have willingly sort of linked arms with other Southern Baptist churches saying, let's work together, right? We believe we can do more together.
Much more.
Yeah. So that's how the whole thing is supposed to work, right? So that confuses a lot of people because when we hear things and people hear things in the news and the media blows things up like, well, Southern Baptists, when they got together, whatever, and we get together every year in June, Southern Baptists got together and they said, we all have to do this, right? Well, that's never the case. No convention is ever telling us what to do. They may offer suggestions and try to help guide and do things like that, but they never tell us what to do because we're independent. So I hear a lot of people always through my ministry as a pastor, I've heard people say, and you hear people when you meet people that will say, I'm a Baptist, but I'm an independent Baptist, right? But that is what we are. We are independent. We're Southern Baptist, but we're independent. We all operate independently. We just willingly decided that we would work together. So that's sort of how that works, every local church is autonomous, right? But we've agreed to work together in what we call associations of churches, right? So at the very beginning of the Southern Baptist Convention, one of the things that got started then was local groups of churches within a certain region or county or something like that would begin to say, okay, well, we're going to form an association. And then that group over there in that city, they're going to form an association, and that they're going to form an association. So we have different groups or different groupings of these churches, which are associations. So we are part of the Mid-South, which I'm still learning about, right? So we're in the Mid-South Baptist Association, which includes not just Shelby County, but includes some churches we dip down into Mississippi, in North Mississippi. Some of the churches, I think, in Olive Branch, Hernando, South Haven area, that are some of those churches are in the Mid-South Baptist Association, and in some churches outside of Shelby County in Tennessee as well. But we're just a sort of a larger association. But in many places in the state, the association is just that particular county. So whatever county you're in, it's that county's association. So there's just smaller groups of churches that all have agreed we're going to try to help each other within that region to be able to do mission work and to be able to reach out. Then within these local associations, then we have state conventions. So right now we have 41 state conventions.
Now some of those are a one-to-one state, and then some of them you have multiple making up one convention, multiple states making up one convention.
That's right.
And then there's some states with multiple conventions, right?
That's right. So for instance, you have the Maryland-Delaware Convention. All right, it's two states that are really small, but they sort of come together to make one convention.
Well, I think there's a Northwest and maybe there's Northeast maybe, but that doesn't have it has a different name than that, I think.
Yeah.
But.
So if you group them up, within 50 states, you've got 41. I think is the number right now. 41 state conventions, or 41. We should probably say 41 conventions, because some of them again are states or groupings of states and that kind of thing. And so those state conventions or conventions of churches all do their own thing. So when I went to Brentwood and we got a chance to sit through the business, we're talking about business that we're doing as a state convention. We're giving, so as we pool our resources, we give a little bit of money, they give a little bit of money, that church gives money, that church gives money, it all gets put in the same pool. And then from that whole pool of money, as a state convention, we've decided we're going to give a portion of that to the Southern Baptist Convention, and they're going to divide it up, and it's going to go to do certain things, right? And so we give, and that's called the cooperative program, right? We give money, they give money, they give money, so we're all agreeing to cooperate together. So we're giving money, it all goes in the same pool, and then we allocate those funds to do different things, right? So that's how we cooperate together. So literally, we can say, and we do say, that every local church that is giving to the cooperative program literally is doing international missions.
Mm-hmm.
You're reaching all over the world by just giving money.
Whether it's a giant church or a very small church, a house church.
That's exactly right. As long as we're giving anything to that cooperative program, you're literally, those dollars are going and getting divided up to go do all kinds of other mission work literally all over the world. And so it's really cool how the whole thing works.
Which goes right back to our history of wanting to see the gospel spread everywhere.
That's right.
And that's just a core desire throughout the whole history, is seeing the gospel go. It's a Baptist distinctive.
It is. And this is a really cool way that we're able to do international missions and see people saved literally all over the world, churches planted all over the world. Within our own country, yes, but all over the world, we're able to do this. So every single person, every individual who tithes, when you give any kind of money to the church, to an undesignated offering, we I'm using elementary terms, right? We take the tithe money that you give, we gather it all up, right? We collect it, count it, and then we as a church have a particular way of allocating those funds. And a certain amount of that money goes to the cooperative program. The cooperative program takes that money, gathers it all up, and the cooperative program within the state of Tennessee has a way of allocating those funds. So some of that goes to operate within Tennessee, some of it goes to the convention, the Southern Baptist Convention. And then the Southern Baptist Convention gathers all that money up, and they allocate that to all kinds of other entities. So we are actually cooperating together. Every individual makes a huge impact in the money that they give. So that's sort of how we operate together or cooperate together, right? Now, within the Southern Baptist Convention, so let's do this. Let's see how many entities we can list.
Without looking?
Without looking.
All right.
Without looking. I'm not going to look at my notes. So how many? So within the Southern Baptist Convention, there are a handful of what we call entities. These are organizations that we fund, that we've created to be able to do different kinds of work within
specific types of work.
That's right. So let's see how many we can name. All right. You start. Name one entity.
North American Mission Board.
Right. Which is what?
Our missions focus that is in North America.
Right.
And in part of that, you might have the Men's Baptist Association and the Disaster Relief, I think, are two subsets of that.
That's right. All right, so I'll do the easy one. International Mission Board, since you got that one. International Mission Board is the same thing. Anything outside of the United States and Canada is considered international missions. So within North American Mission Board, that includes Canada. But outside of that is everything else in the world. So when we do international missions, every bit of money we're sending our missionaries anywhere outside of North America is going to is what we call international missions. All right, name another entity.
Women's Mission Union is auxiliary. I'm not sure how that distinguishes it, but it's always listed as one of our entities.
It is, and a lot of our folks know WMU really well, and some people don't know what WMU means. But it's a women's auxiliary that gathers in many different churches, and within those churches they operate together even at a national level to do, again, mission work all over the world, here in North America and all over the world.
And they're a big arm for helping raise support for specific types like Lottie Moon and Annie Armstrong. Those are two big focus areas that they help to support North American missions and international missions.
That's exactly right. All right, so you did that one. I will see if I can name another one. If I name another one, it's going to get a whole group. All right, so I'll name another one. Our SBC seminaries. All right, so
you're going to start trying to name those?
Yeah, I'm going to try to get them. So there's
I'll check you.
Thank you. Check me. So there's Southeastern Baptist Theological Seminary. There's Midwestern Baptist Theological Seminary. There's Southern Baptist Theological Seminary, which was actually the first one.
Southern Baptist Theological.
Southern Baptist Theological, which we're both graduates of, right? So it is called the Southern Baptist Theological Seminary. There is New Orleans Baptist Theological Seminary. There is what is now called, what is it now? It's not Golden Gate now. It's I can't remember the
Gateway.
Gateway, thank you. Gateway Seminary in San Francisco or around San Francisco. Did I get them all? Was that every?
I think so.
I got them all. So there's 6 seminaries. These are training pastors and missionaries. And so within, and I could even tell you where all these are too, but I'm not going to. But anyway, so if you look at all the different seminaries, one of the things that all that money does when it gets gathered up at the national level is they take it and a certain percentage goes to fund or partly fund education for pastors and missionaries and ministers in all kinds of different ways in churches.
Which ends up being someone going to a seminary who's not Southern Baptist pays a different rate than someone who is a Southern Baptist.
And a lot of people don't know that. If you are a Southern Baptist, we don't, like in seminaries, you don't pay out-of-state tuition.
Right.
Like
colleges,
state colleges and state institutions do. It's not the same thing. We pay out-of-denomination tuition. So if you're a Southern Baptist, go to a Southern Baptist church, you can go to any of these seminaries, and you get a decrease in your tuition. But if you're not a Southern Baptist and you go, you pay full tuition. So that's basically the way
We're used to that concept with the state universities.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. All right. So I named the seminaries. What else is there?
Lifeway Resources.
That's right. Lifeway. Lifeway. Actually, the CEO of Lifeway. Now I'll say I'm not a name dropper, but I got to see him actually at Brentwood Baptist Church at the Tennessee Baptist Convention. His name is Ben Mandrell. Ben and I went to seminary together. So that was one of those guys I got to catch up with, as I was talking about earlier, that I went to seminary with. But all these entities are led by a president or a CEO, and then they have a staff and they have a board of trustees. Each one of these does, and that's how they operate together. So Lifeway distributes all kinds of resources for us. Sunday school
They
material.
provide curriculum. They develop it. All of our camps. So many great resources. A lot of folks think about Lifeway and they think bookstore. Well, that's
right.
just one subset, and even now there are not any brick and mortar versions of those. It's all online, but they develop so much good curriculum that is all together designed for churches to be able to, whether they're large or small, grab a piece of curriculum, and now it's a whole turnkey solution to helping disciple people.
That's right. They produce Bibles now. Through Holman Publishers and all kinds of things. So I would say it's funny because as he was speaking about Lifeway, he said, I know everybody sort of has been over the last number of years frustrated. There's no store to walk into. I want to be able to pick up a Bible and smell it and feel it, before I buy it. And he just said, that's not happening. It's not ever coming back. So I guess while at least he's there. But anyway, that's just not going to happen because everything has gone to online. So much of that has changed when it comes to books and Bibles, and so anyway. But it is still available. You can go online and find all that stuff. And but many of our other entities produce stuff as well. Lifeway is not the only thing that prints stuff. We have our mission boards and all that create all kinds of resources for our churches to be able to use
to equip people for missions.
That's right.
They're kind of their specific slant.
That's right. All right. Did we get them all?
No.
What did we miss?
ERLC.
We
the
did.
Ethics and Religious. Let me see. Ethics and Religious
Liberties Commission.
Yes, that's it. I was getting it backwards.
ERLC. Yeah. So the ERLC is an entity that is designed to be able to help Baptists and equip Baptists be able to deal with and answer to the issues of our culture, the difficult issues of our culture. They are sort of a think tank for Southern Baptists, and that's what that's about. And so they help sort of give us the resources that we need to be able to
engage our culture.
Yeah, engage our culture. And then there's also the executive committee, which we didn't mention. The executive committee is basically it's the group of people that runs the convention all year long, with the exception of those 2 days that we meet in June in the summer.
So we kind of appoint them on our behalf to help facilitate things when we're not in session.
That's exactly right. Because the convention only lasts 2 days a year, and somebody's got to run it all the other 300 and whatever days a year, right?
And the executive committee's 7,500. How large is it? It's larger than I expected.
Yeah, and I just was reading that earlier, and now I can't remember.
But somewhere in the order of 100, give or take 20, or is it?
Yeah, I think it's like 76, maybe 75, 70, something like that. It's right around in there, number of people. But anyway, they help to sort of hold things down and be able to disseminate the funds and all of that we've agreed on at the convention, and things that we've voted on, they follow through with, and all of that. So anyway, that's a little bit about SBC. So basically, when we boil it all down, though, the Southern Baptist Convention really was founded for the sake of world missions, and that is still our identity. We're still pushing further and further and further into the darkness to plant churches and share the gospel with people all over the world that have never heard the gospel.
Fulfilling that great commission together.
That's right. And we spend millions upon millions of dollars every year to do that, and it takes a lot of people, it takes a lot of resources and everything, but that is our commission, and we take that seriously to reach people with the gospel. So that is who we are as Southern Baptists, and I just say I'm proud to be a Southern Baptist. I really am. So anyway, that is the GBC Podcast for this week, and we'll see you again next time.